I'll be taking a trip to Minnesota sometime soon to hang out with some of my favorite people in the business. Love the Midwestern folks. One of them happens to be Herbe Yesel. He's not exactly a Midwestern folk, but he works in Minneapolis, and he's been working real hard on the way to management. I'm very much looking forward to your promotion, Herbe. And you ask a really good question. As leaders, we have to, paint the picture and we have to cast vision. And so sometimes our new people question, is the juice worth the squeeze? And so how do we paint that picture? And so I think that's a really good observation, Herbe. It doesn't take long for the new people to realize that there's squeeze involved. I don't know if I've ever heard a new person say, hey, this business is really easy. No, I hear people say, listen, this is really hard, as it should be hard. There's always going to be more no's than yeses. The minute that there's more yeses than no's is really the minute that our clients don't need us. They could just hire anybody to do this because it's easy work. So there is something to be said about the hard work. And so, again, I think it's a fair observation for new people. Like, listen, there's a lot of squeeze involved. Is the juice worth it? And so that really has me thinking of the word prejudice. Prejudice is a preconceived opinion that is based not on reason nor actual experience. We all have our own prejudices and our preconceived opinions. And I just want to name a few. When I was a new person coming into the business, I didn't even realize I had these prejudices. One of them being, listen, I was growing up thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. So when I joined the business, I didn't even really know my long-term big picture. I just, thought, hey, this could be a good experience to help me in the courtroom one day. And so as I was having dialogue with several customers in the field, found out that some of these people were lawyers. I'm like, oh, wow, you're a lawyer. That must be awesome. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, listen, I've watched movies like A Few Good Men and, did you call Code Red? And I'm thinking, that's, the job of a lawyer. And they're like, no, I don't know where you got that preconceived idea from, but the courtroom is around 1% of my work, and the other 99% is paperwork and administration, and it's in the office. I'm like, oh, I thought it was like all courtroom drama. No, it doesn't really quite work that way. I don't know if I want to be a lawyer then. Sounds kind of boring. I had many lawyers tell me if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't be a lawyer. That really had my hamsters running, like that might be the wrong career choice for me. I also remember another time, it's midday during the week and a young man answers the door, and I'm engaging in a sale, and I ask him, like, hey, what do you do for a living, sir? We're in a beautiful part of town. I'm going through a residential area, and these are all mansions. The guy says, oh, well, I'm a professional golfer. And I'm like, oh, man, that's awesome, Like, what's your name? And he's like, hey, listen. He says, don't get your hopes all high here. Listen, being a pro golfer, this is really hard work. It's a ton of stress. I'm traveling all the time. I'm hardly ever home. There's stress on the putts, and I know some people can make a ton of money. Those are the people you see on TV. It's not like I'm making money. This house that you see here, this is my wife's home. She's the breadwinner of the family. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be, being a pro golfer, right? Again, I had my preconceived ideas. I even remember as a new owner, just one more example, I see on a resume, like, wow, you create toys for Mattel. I ran my first office in Burbank, so I ran into all kinds of people in entertainment and industries like that, like the entertainment industry. And so, I remember this person saying, yeah, it's a really hard job. I'm like, that must be cool. You get to be like a child, right? Your vocation, and he was making good money at Mattel. You get to create toys. He goes, no, it's not exactly fun. I signed up thinking, oh, what a creative job it would be, but there were deadlines, and I'm always meeting with executives, and it was a lot of stress. So no, it wasn't a fun job. But I'm like, oh, okay. So how do you satisfy preconceived ideas? How do you find out if the juice really is worth the squeeze? So as a young man, in the business, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to climb the ladder of success. I knew I was ambitious. I just need to get into the right vehicle, and I'm going to climb. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to work hard. I'm willing to be overworked and underpaid. So I'm going to climb the ladder of success. And what a tragedy it would be to climb the ladder of success only to learn that your ladder has been leaning against the wrong wall the entire time. Like, could you imagine? You're climbing the ladder of success. You get to the top. You lean over. You're like, oh yeah, this isn't what it what I thought it was going to be. So I was thinking, imagine working at Blockbuster Video back in the day. Like, hey mom, guess what? I've been climbing the ladder of success, and I'm a vice president at Blockbuster Video, only to have that company fold. Or to climb the ladder of success at Enron, right? At one time, Enron was the 6th largest company in the United States. I'm sure my parents would be proud that, hey mom and dad, I climbed the ladder. I'm a big shot now at Enron, only to come to work on a Monday and see yellow tape all around the building and see that the government shut the company down for fraud, right? Like, what a tragedy it would be to climb the ladder of success only to realize that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. Again, is the juice worth the squeeze? And so as a young owner in the business, I decided, well, I need to find out. I mean, I have my own preconceived ideas of what I think consulting looks like. Let me call around. So I remember calling Brad Park. I'm like, hey, Brad, I want to come hang out with you. That was kind of my pitch to Brad. I want to come hang out with you. Little did Brad know that what I was really doing was just eyeballing what it must be like at the top. Like, what's it like at being a consultant in the business? So, eventually Brad and I coordinated some time. I'm going to fly out to Atlanta. So I'm on a plane, go to Atlanta, and Brad lets me know, hey, by the way, go to this part of the airport here in Atlanta. I'm going to meet you in St. Simon. We're going to go to my beach house in St. Simon. So here I am at Atlanta Airport, go to where the little airplanes are, fly to St. Simon, Georgia, a nice little beach town there in Georgia, and I'm hanging out with Brad and Brandy. And so during that time, I really got to check a few boxes that were really on my mind. One, and this wasn't necessarily the most important, but is the money real? I mean, I want to be compensated for my hard work for sure. And after hanging out at their, again, beach home, I'm thinking, gee, what does their home look like if this is the beach home? I mean, it was a 4-story beach home. I mean, it was beautiful. And there was no question Brad and Brandy were not lacking in resources. So kind of check that box. Like, I like the money, okay? I like how you're compensated for what you do. And just as important, if not more important, what do you do? And what he did all day long, as I'm just observing Brad interact with various owners, he's helping young entrepreneurs level up. And that was just so motivating for me. These are eager, hungry, motivated entrepreneurs that want to run more successful companies, and they're going to Brad looking for wisdom. And I'm like, oh man, I love the coaching job. I think this would be awesome. You're not sitting at a desk all day doing boring stuff. Like, you're really making a difference helping these young entrepreneurs. And the third box that I checked was Brad had the freedom of time. Now, it's not like we were lazy and we just only worked an hour a day, but he controlled when those appointments happened. Like, what's going to happen in the morning, what's happening in the evening, what's happening in the afternoon, had complete control of his time. In fact, didn't even need to be in Atlanta, could do his work from St. Simon. And over the years, I found I can do my work from Maui. That doesn't suck to be wherever you need to be and be able to work remotely. So again, checking those boxes. And so again, that's what I did. First-hand testimonials to really see if the juice really was worth the squeeze. So what really is the lesson here? I mean, how do you figure out if the juice is worth the squeeze? And so, you got to do your homework, and you've got to get some first-hand experience. You can't rely on prejudice, obviously. It's a bad word, prejudice, like a preconceived opinion. Like, well, no, you can Google it and you can you get some information. I'm not saying don't do that, but I am saying talk to people who've been there, done that. Like, when my kids tell me, well, here's what I want to do. Right now, my middle child is like, well, I want to be a baker. I think I want to be a baker. Well, I want her to meet bakers. I want her to talk to people that's their vocation, to see, is this really what you think it is? Kind of like that pro golfer that I met. Like, is it really what you think it is? Or the lawyer, is it really what you think it is? I mean, isn't this the value of internships? Think about it. While you're going to get your degree, don't you want to get that experience? Again, first-hand experience. What is it really like on the inside of that firm, in the inside of that industry? That's really important. You got to get that experience. You got to talk to people that have been there, that have made this their careers. And so that's really how I figured it out. I mean, even in the home I'm living in, as an example, I remember when I came to this house that I live in here in California, and I'm like, listen, the house is what I want. It's checking all the boxes. It's got exactly what I'm looking for. And I appreciated what the real estate agent, she sold me on the house, but I'm like, excuse me for a minute, I just got to go knocking on doors. And she's like, what do you mean you got to go knock on doors? I'm like, I just want to talk to the neighbors. I want to talk to people that have been living in this neighborhood. It's one thing to buy the house. I'm sold on the house. I don't know if I'm sold on the neighborhood. And so there I am with my 4-year-old son at the time, knocking on people's doors. And I'm like, listen, I'm interested in purchasing this home. I'd love to hear what you got to tell me about the neighborhood. And so I remember one of my neighbors, Steve, he's the guy that really sold me on the neighborhood. He's like, oh man, we moved away and then we missed this place so much. We've moved back. He told me about the school system. He told me about the lack of crime. He told me about the community. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is where I want to live. But I had to go talk to the people that lived in the neighborhood, not rely on the sales rep who's making a nice commission to sell me on the home. No, I need some testimonials. So Urbe, I would say, as people are coming into the business, I think it's important to connect them, to introduce them. Again, they could have their own preconceived idea what they think it's like what do you think ownership is like? What do you think consulting is like? Meet the people that are doing that, and they can share their experiences. I think that is really the most important way, or the most effective way on really satisfying that answer. Is the juice worth the squeeze? And I really think every new person should be asking that. The squeeze is there, no question. Is the juice worth it? You got to talk to the people that are there. So I hope this video helps you, Urbe, and I look forward to seeing you soon.